Sometimes the hardest person to let go of is someone who never actually existed. Not because you imagined the entire relationship, but because somewhere along the way you fell in love with who he could become. And potential is not a commitment. If that resonates, stay with me. Because what I'm about to share might be one of the most important shifts a woman ever makes in her relationships, her self-respect and her sovereignty. Some of the people we love most deeply are never quite who we believe them to be. Not because they necessarily lied, not because every feeling was false, but because we weren't just seeing the person standing in front of us. We were seeing their potential, their wounds, their hidden goodness, the person they might become if they healed. And without realizing it, we began loving a possibility more than a reality. Carl Jung understood something profound about this. We don't always see people as they are. We see them through the unconscious images we carry within ourselves. We project, we fill in the blanks, we take fragments of reality and build a story around them. And sometimes the story becomes so beautiful that we defend it, even when reality contradicts it. This is why one of the most powerful transformations a woman can experience is learning to stop romanticizing people. Because when the fantasy disappears, she finally sees. She sees what is being offered now, not what could someday be offered. She hears what someone is actually saying, not what she hopes they mean. She watches patterns instead of promises. She stops confusing potential with character. And that's where a different kind of feminine power begins. Not the power to attract, not the power to persuade, not even the power to be chosen, but the power to perceive reality without abandoning herself. One of the easiest ways to romanticize someone is to fall in love with their potential. She notices flashes of tenderness, moments of vulnerability, glimpses of who they could become. But seeing someone's potential does not mean they intend to become it. Understanding someone's wounds does not mean they are healing them. Knowing why someone behaves badly does not make the behavior less harmful. And loving someone deeply does not give you the power to complete their development for them. A woman who romanticizes people becomes attached to the future. She tells herself, "He is afraid of intimacy now, but eventually he will trust me. She is inconsistent now, but underneath it all, she really cares. They don't appreciate me now, but one day they'll understand what I brought into their life." Suddenly, she is no longer relating to the person who exists today. She is in a relationship with tomorrow, but tomorrow has made no promises. A queen changes this. A queen can recognize potential without building her life around it. She can have compassion without turning it into an excuse. She can understand someone's wounds without volunteering to be the place where those wounds are repeatedly acted out. Most importantly, she understands that potential is not a commitment. A person must choose their own growth, and if they don't choose it, she doesn't choose it for them. This isn't cold, it's clear. And clarity is one of the most underrated forms of self-respect. If you're ready to see yourself and your relationships more clearly through the deeper psychology of Carl Jung, subscribe to The Sovereign Path. Because what we're really exploring here isn't how to change other people. It's how to stop abandoning yourself because of them. There is a deeper reason we romanticize certain people: projection. Sometimes what captivates us about another person reveals something about ourselves. The mysterious person may carry qualities we've suppressed. The confident person may represent a boldness we haven't allowed ourselves to embody. The unavailable person may activate an old longing to finally be chosen. The wounded person may awaken the part of us that learned that love means rescuing. Attraction can feel supernatural because sometimes we are encountering pieces of our own unconscious life. And when we don't recognize this, we assign extraordinary meaning to ordinary behavior. A glance becomes destiny. Chemistry becomes compatibility. Mystery becomes depth. Inconsistency becomes complexity. Breadcrumbs become evidence of a hidden feast. But eventually reality asks a simple question: what is actually happening? Not what could happen, not what you sense beneath the surface, not what happened during the best week, not what they said during an emotional conversation at midnight. What is consistently happening? Patterns are behavior repeated long enough to become information, and information is valuable. It allows her to stop arguing with reality. She doesn't need a confession. She doesn't need the perfect explanation. She doesn't need someone to admit what their behavior already demonstrated. She observes, she accepts, she decides. This is discernment, not judgment. Judgment says, you are a terrible person. Discernment says, this pattern does not belong in my life. Judgment needs to condemn. Discernment only needs to choose. Reality can hurt. It can hurt to admit someone cannot meet you where you are. It can hurt to realize the connection was sustained partly by hope. Fantasy protects us from grief. As long as we can say, maybe, we don't have to mourn. But individuation asks something deeper. It asks us to integrate reality, to retrieve the projections we placed onto other people and ask, what did I believe this person was going to give me? What did they represent? What did I imagine their love would finally prove about me? Letting go feels painful because you're not just releasing a person, you're releasing a psychological story, the future you imagined, the validation you expected, the version of yourself you thought you'd become beside them. But something powerful waits on the other side. When a woman retrieves her projections, she begins reclaiming the qualities she was searching for outside herself. If she admired someone's confidence, she asks where her own confidence has been suppressed. If she was obsessed with being chosen, she asks where she has failed to choose herself. Other people stop being symbols. They become human beings, flawed, complex, sometimes wonderful, sometimes disappointing, sometimes capable of loving us, sometimes incapable of loving us in the way we need. And once she allows people to simply be human, she becomes free to respond to who they actually are. Not everyone needs to become a villain for you to walk away. Sometimes two people simply cannot meet each other. Sometimes someone does care but lacks the emotional capacity required. You do not have to prove that someone is bad in order to decide they are not good for you. The question becomes, given what I can see clearly, what do I choose? A queen does not fall in love with potential and call it destiny. She watches what is. She honors what she sees. She trusts herself enough to choose accordingly. Because the moment a woman stops romanticizing people, she stops asking reality to become more beautiful. She becomes strong enough to see the beauty in knowing the truth. And once she sees clearly, she never has to abandon herself again. If you are walking this path toward becoming more discerning, more self-possessed, and more sovereign, subscribe to the Sovereign Path and continue the journey with us. Because there is always another layer of yourself waiting to be reclaimed.